Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. It's Big John, aka the Fasting Fat Man, aka the Incredible Shrinking Man, aka the modern day Angus Barbieri. Today is day 108 of my planned 120 day water fast. I'm doing a quick video because I had planned on I had planned on doing a video on day 110, but that actually falls on Easter and I'm not a heathen. So I decided, let me do a quick update. As you can see, my lovely assistant is at work, so I have to do this on the webcam. I just put my little inspiration, my little man, to sleep. He sleeps soundly. He's kind of like me for the first half hour where nothing can wake him up. And then after that, he becomes his mother. Like the slightest noise will get him up. I want to talk about the non-scale victories that happened this week. My doctor sent me for a what do they call that? A stress test, and the non-scale victory at the stress test was when I got to the doctor's office. Now, first off, the stress test is funny because I always thought that stress tests is where you go to the doctors and they hook you up to the machine, and then you have to run and jog or something on a tread machine, and then they be able to measure the stress on your heart. That's all in the movies and on TV. When I went there, what happened is they put you into one of those big EKG machines, the round ones that you kind of slide into. In the past, I could never fit in those, but now I fit lovely. So that's one of the victories. What happened is they'll strap a blood pressure cuff to your wrist, and then on the other wrist, they'll put an IV. And then you have to lay there with your hand over your head. So then the IV will pump some kind of chemical that like accelerates your heart, and then the blood pressure cuff will squeeze on your wrist every 2 minutes or so. So they put me on the machine, I'll get back to that. But anyway, they put me on the machine, and I go through the test, and they tell me, if you feel any discomfort, let us know. I didn't feel any discomfort. I did feel my heart beating fast, but there was nothing uncomfortable about it. And to me, that kind of signified that there was nothing wrong, because I think if there was something wrong, I would have felt discomfort. When it was done, I asked them what the result was. They told me that, they'll compile it, give it to my doctor. So I'll find out. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'll find out exactly what the result was, and I'll share it with you guys on a later episode. But the real news is the blood pressure. So I asked them what was my blood pressure during the test, and the lady told me, well, it fluctuated between 108 and 123. So my systolic fluctuated between 108 and 123. And what's incredible about that is back in December, if I didn't take my medication, my systolic would be around 170, 180. So I haven't taken my blood pressure medication since the end of January. So here we are, April 19th. The stress test was done about 3 days ago, and my systolic, without me taking meds since January, fluctuated between 108 and 123 while doing a stress test. So to me, that's a victory and a half. The other non-scale victory, which was actually a scale victory, and I'll explain, was before the test, they had me step on a scale, and my weight was 363 pounds. Now, if you remember, the last weighing I did, it was 368. So it was 363 pounds. And the reason that was a victory wasn't so much because of the 5-pound weight loss. It was because the scale at the doctor's office actually read my weight. In the past, when I used to step on the scale would just read, get off. Nah, I'm serious. I'm not even joking. Like, the scales at the doctor's office used to taunt me. They used to tell me all kinds of things, like, I'll step on, they'll say, are you kidding? One scale told me I quit. It was crazy embarrassing. None of the doctors that I went to in the past ever had a scale that could actually calculate my weight. And now I go to this doctor and my weight was, 360 pounds. And the mere fact that I was able to read the weight on the scale was like a victory to me. Another non-scale victory was the stress test was being done in Manhattan. So when they called to confirm the appointment, and my doctor booked it. So I was like, I didn't schedule a stress test in Manhattan. I don't want to drive to Manhattan during that time. So it was like, oh, it's no problem. We'll send a car to pick you up. So, of course, I'm like, okay, fine, perfect. So they sent a car, and, it's a regular car service. It wasn't like one of those ambulances or anything like that. So I got in the back seat, and it's a non-scale victory in that I got in the back seat and I fit comfortably. In the past, I couldn't even get into Ubers because, as embarrassing it may sound, like a lot of times the Ubers were small cars and I just couldn't fit. Now, this was a mid-sized car, and although at my heaviest I probably could have fit, but usually I'll like sit more towards the center, kind of like mentally, because I feel like I was balancing out the car as if like this would have been the Flintstones if I sat on one side and the guy would end up tilting on the other side. I mean, that's the mentality I had. But again, I fit comfortably in the seat. I was able to put on the back seat belt and buckle it up. And as we got into Manhattan from Brooklyn, I realized that I had my coat zipped up. I never unzip it. In the past, even when I was wearing a 6L coat, to get into my own car and sit comfortably, I had to unzip my coat. It could be dead of winter, it could be snowing. I had to unzip my coat in order to sit down so that all this could spread out properly. If I don't do that, I'm going to rip the inside of my coat. Like I'll feel stuffed in it, like a can of sardines. So that's another non-scale victory. The final non-scale victory was my wife's car. In the past, when I would manage to sit in the passenger seat of my wife's car, I had to hold the seatbelt with my hand because I couldn't buckle it. And in New York, even the passengers could get a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. So I had to hold the seatbelt with my hand to pretend that it's buckled in case a cop sees us. And the other day when I actually got into a car, I buckled the seatbelt with no problem. And there was room, there was give. And then just yesterday, I needed to drive over to see my cousin. And because there was no parking, she didn't want to come into our driveway or block the driveway so that I could get out. So I was like, look, since there's no parking, let me just take your car. And when I come back, hopefully there'll be parking, or I'll just put in the driveway myself. So, because I drive an SUV, that's the only thing that really I could fit into. And she drives a crossover. So I got into her car, and not only did I fit, but her seat is set up to adjust to her. So the minute I pressed the button to start the car, the seat started moving in. Now in the past, when I've let her drive my SUV, and she's adjusted it to her height, when the seats start moving in, I felt like when Han Solo and Luke was stuck in the trash compactor in Star Wars. Like the seatbelt, the steering wheel kept getting closer and closer to the gut, and then touched the gut, and I have to hurry up to like stop it because I feel I'm going to be crushed to death. In her car, it kept going, and the same old obesity panic came over me, but then it stopped. And I realized that I have plenty of room, my gut's not touching her steering wheel, and literally if I wanted to, I could drive like that without changing her seat adjustment. And well, I mean, I did move it back because, I like to lounge when I drive, but that's another non-scale victory, the fact that I was able to do it. So pretty much that's been the things that's happened this past week that like I thought was extremely sweet. I wanted to talk about the last video I made. I did mention in the last video, look, before you think 100 days is impossible, look up Angus Barbieri, and it's the information age, avail yourself. The thing is, people didn't avail themselves. I still got comments saying that, like, look, 100 days is impossible and thing. And I was befuddled at first. I'm like, I mean, what's going on? Like, all you gotta do is Google this. And then I thought about it. I realized what's going on. People don't really watch the video. What they'll do is they'll read the description and it'll be like 100 days. This fat man is out of his mind. I'm going to go give him a piece of my mind. And they'll just jump on and just like, rattle off. And, I got to the point where like now pretty much I just write Angus Barbieri. Like anything that deals with the impossibility of a long fast, I just put Angus Barbieri, leave it like that. Because, to be honest with you, I'm not Lucy. I don't have a lot of explaining to do. I'm just going to keep it moving. Those of you who've been following me pretty much know what my routine is, what I'm doing. Thank you for writing, supporting, believing in me. You guys are the fuel that keeps my fire burning.